Welcome to the Echo Essentials podcast. My name is Chris Piekarski, and on today's episode, we have an awesome episode recording with local journalist Greg Estabrooks. If you know North Bay journalism and news, you know Greg. He's been incorporated in the area for so many years, and we talk about a lot of things. It's a really great episode. It was great chatting with Greg because I know him from different parts of my life. But we talked about local sports, his new current series. We talked about his process and the changes of journalism throughout time. We talked a little bit what's happening at City Hall, but he is clearly just like an endless source of knowledge. It's always great kind of picking his brain and chatting with him. Before we get to the episode, I do want to thank our title sponsor, Homewood Suites by Hilton North Bay.
North Bay's turning 100, and what a time to be here. From the buzz of the Heritage Parade to sunset concerts at the waterfront, the city is alive with celebration. And you know who's right in the middle of it all? Homewood Suites by Hilton North Bay. We're proud to be a part of this milestone moment. Whether you're coming home from a family reunion, planning a gathering with friends, or just simply making the most of everything the Centennial has to offer, our doors are open. Stay in a spacious suite that feels like home, with a full kitchen to cook in, room to relax, and a space to unwind after a full day of fun. Are you hosting something bigger? Our event spaces and amazing local partners like the Grand and Stock Transportation make it easy to bring people together. Best of all, they're just steps from the action. The fireworks, the food trucks, the music, the laughter, it's all right here. Celebrate 100 years of North Bay with us. Use code Centennial to save on your stay anytime this year. Be at home with Homewood Suites by Hilton North Bay. Join the party today at 495 Oak Street West or give us a call at 705-495-3000.
Today, we have local journalist and friend of the show, Greg Estabrooks. Greg, how are you?
Good. I didn't know we were friends, but I guess we can go with that.
I think we're friends, but
we'll see where we are in an hour.
Fair. Well, as I told you in the preamble, which we did not record.
You're blushing. I like that.
Of course.
I got you.
Hey, it's bright red in here.
Yeah.
I like the temperature. It's very warm in the studio.
It is warm, yes.
We're just going to have a chit chat. I want to talk a bit about, obviously, building connections with journalists. And you've been a long time, legendary local journalist. Again, buttering
Just
your
ask
bread.
me. Yes.
If I have it here, 3 years with the Nugget recently.
Yes.
20 plus years with Kojiko Your TV.
Yep.
And before that, with MCTV, which would have been Northern Ontario CTV.
Right.
12 years.
You looked up my resume. That's good.
I got you.
And then I worked at a couple places before that out west, but I'm originally from here, went to Canada, or my dad was in the military, so we did move around some.
Yeah.
But North Bay's been home more or less most of about 90% of my life, I'd say.
I was going to say, as a North Bayite myself.
36 years straight, so let's put it that way.
Okay, so that's exactly my point, is that being a 33-year-old, as long as I've been consuming North Bay media, you've been part of the face of it.
Oh,
I remember
you poor boy.
Oh, no. I remember you were covering sports on Kojiko.
I know, and before that, covering sports on MCTV. And the funny thing, I know, I don't want to go too many times, but it is so funny. It hasn't been MCTV for like 25 years.
Gonna say.
But the one reporter that's left for CTV, Eric Tashter, people still call it MCTV to his face, and it annoys all of them a lot but that's what was ingrained. Anybody who say 40 and over, that's what they remember.
Yeah, I think it was like Channel 12 when I was growing up. Maybe Channel 8.
Channel
12?
It moved around a bit. Kojiko was Channel 12.
There we go. Yeah.
Kojiko was Channel 12. CTV was Channel 9 and Channel 8 at one point. It was two channels.
I thought it may have been 8, but it's funny you mentioned Tashner. I work with Eric in various different things in my other parts of my communication life. He's an absolute beaut, and he recently covered a story that we kind of helped promoted with the Mobile with Melanoma Canada. They came to North Bay, and I obviously have a very unique relationship with that organization, with the history of my mom and my family. And he always used to cover the melanoma visits to North Bay just as like we were connected to it.
Right.
So he was like, oh, hey, are you still covering the thing? I'm like, I mean, I'm covering something else, but you can come and, talk to me and we can connect you. And so we're always like a media contact. Shout out, Eric. You're always welcome on the show. But going down the rabbit hole, again, I'm talking about how, you've been connected with North Bay media and North Bay journalism, and, you kind of been, one of the faces of breaking news and news in North Bay. Just give me a bit of a rundown, like, on your process. Like, how do each of these eras of your life as a journalist, feel now? How do you draw upon that? And, like, how do you go about your day-to-day currently? Like, how much that has built you up today?
They're all different animals, really.
Yeah.
I mean, TV was a different animal than print. They call it print. It's basically digital journalism now. It's but I really wanted to get back to North Bay. I was homesick for North Bay. I worked out in a couple small stations out west, up north, Timmins and Kirkland Lake, and I knew Kirkland Lake quite well. But I wanted to come back to North Bay, and I did. But it was a lot of different roles. We had weekend news. I wasn't a sports guy originally. I was a weekend news guy and a weekday news guy, and did a little bit of sports. Tried to weasel in and get as much sports as I could. Sometimes volunteering to do it on my own time, just so I could get the cover stuff, because there's nothing better than getting paid to cover a sporting event.
Yeah.
The unfortunate part now is that sports, especially high school sports, has withered a little bit because the school populations have withered, and that's 3 teams and
well, there's less high schools.
Yeah, that's the problem. It's not just a North Bay thing; it's an everywhere thing. The process is different. I think now you're always in this. It's so much more immediate now. Like sometimes you could sit on a story and you didn't have to worry about getting posted. What was the internet? Think about that in perspective.
I know.
The first 10 years I worked, there was no internet.
Yeah.
So the process where you work the phone. I remember a funny story. I was working in Timmins, and this is the late 80s.
I'll go for it.
And so we were trying to get some information from somebody in Toronto, and they wanted to fax me the material. And I said, we don't have a fax machine. And they started laughing. What's a fax machine? Now it's like, what's a fax machine? But that's how, it was
Full
a
circle.
Slower process, right? You had to physically drive everywhere. We did the odd phone interview, but it was kind of boring, especially in television. You want see, the difference between TV and radio is TV or radio. I did radio too for a year, but the TV and print is that, it's so video oriented, obviously, in TV. You want that sound, you want the pictures, you want the sound and pictures to tell your story as much as anything else.
Yeah.
I think in print, obviously, you do use pictures, you do use a bit of video, but it's not the same thing. So the narrative is the story, and you have to be detail oriented. And anybody notices grammar error, everybody notices a spelling mistake. In TV, there are no spelling mistakes unless you get somebody's name wrong when you put it up on the screen.
Yeah.
And we've done that. But
I've done that too. It's okay.
But I'm just saying it's much different,
Yeah.
So the process is, we work the phones a lot. Facebook, I get a lot of tips from Facebook. People will message me privately to tell me what's going on. Or, sometimes you get Facebook messages about a team involving one of their family and they want you to do a story on it. I get a lot of those.
An internal hit piece.
Yes. Or an internal promotion piece.
Fair.
But you're a lot more, there's no real days off. And I'm not saying, I'm glued to my phone, but you get messages and news tips don't come in at a specific time or a specific location. I could be out at the grocery store and somebody might pull me over to tell me something. The process is it's very fluid, okay? It's very fluid. It's much different now, too, because it's much more immediate now. You can go back home and post something on X or on Facebook, or if you're using Instagram or not TikTok, but most of those, it's much more immediate now, you know, and it's, you sometimes you post something quickly. You post something quickly. You see, my phone's beeping right now.
Active journalist right here.
So you're always kind of aware of stuff, right? And and also you also feel the need, especially in a smaller market like this, that you don't want to miss anything. So even if it is your day off and that something's going on, sometimes I would grab a camera or go grab my phone and go cover it just because you don't want to miss it.
Yeah.
Because media's been cut to the bone in smaller markets like this.
True.
When I worked at MCTV back in the 90s, we had about 30 full-time people doing different jobs, but the newsroom were 7 or 8 people. Now they have one person and maybe one salesperson, and they don't have a building. They work from home. It's a golf place now. Think about
Really?
that. Oak Street is now a virtual golf place.
That's true.
And 30 years ago, 25 years ago, well, not 25, 30 for sure, there were 65 people in there full and part-time. Now there's 2 or 1. And the Nugget had they had reporters doing each beat. They had 2 full-time sports guys. So it's just different now. And a lot of people do their own journalism online, so to speak. So keyboard warriors and stuff have their own, and sometimes they do some good. I'm not, sometimes they can get good good information themselves. I mean, sometimes you go to their websites or Facebook pages to get information. You know, sometimes if there's something breaking, sometimes somebody might go by with their phone and take a video of it and post it.
Yeah.
Which is good and bad, because sometimes they post stuff they have no information or they jump to conclusions. But sometimes it's very helpful. I don't know if I'm answering your question, but the process is very fluid is what I'm trying. It wasn't that fluid back in the old days.
Well, it also just feels like, and I like what you put there, because things have changed. You know, we always talk about, you know, the birthplace or the how Echo came to become created, right? We saw like an opportunity to, like, you know, there's areas in our local media market that were not, you know, staffed the way they used to, but there was still like a desire and a need to cover these local stories.
Well, that's I didn't mean to cut you off, but that's the other problem too, is that stuff doesn't get covered like it used to. Say the school board, or say city council, or say sports teams. When they had people dedicated to those things, the people had their feet held to the fire much more than they do now. You know what I'm saying? So there would be somebody who, I mean, I think her name was Maria Calabrese, used to work for the Nugget years ago.
Okay.
And all she did was court stuff, and she got some great material that the other media was like, wow, you know, kind of jealous of, really. But that was her. They had enough staff that they could dedicate her position to covering court like 3 or 4 days a week. So every big trial that happened, you know, it would be now it's not. Very rarely, unless it's a real big case. Because you can't put somebody in there for 7 hours if they have to do other things.
There's also like different protections too. I mean, in terms of like what people want to or will release to the public.
Well,
like, we're working on like an episode, and I'm not going to give it all away, but like, about how, you know, the large amount of, you know, law enforcement presence in local media. And like, you know, it's, I mean, like a lot of places, you distribute a media release, it gets picked up, you see where it goes, right? And there's a lot of fascination to local law enforcement, what's happening in terms of like the crime in the community, because it's, I would think it's pretty tasty for those who are kind of looking on the outside, kind of looking to see and learn more. But like, yeah, in terms of sourcing from that content, like that's completely different. You don't have those boots on the ground anymore.
No, and the thing is, a lot of times those releases get sent you. It's prepared and polished by them.
Yeah.
And sometimes you don't have time to like rewrite it or call them up and really, you just post it because you might be onto something else.
Because you got 8 different things going on.
And you know, you can't parse it like you used to, right? Or if you get a press release in the old days, we would call up sometimes and maybe not change much of it, but ask a couple of questions. But sometimes you don't have time. You know, you just post it. If it's say more, I don't know, public relations oriented, you really don't want to grill them on it. But so sometimes you just trust them and post it.
Yeah.
But it's not like, I'm just saying, it's not like it was. And podcasting, actually, I mean, I know you're not doing investigative stuff, but this is the wave of the future and the wave of the present, really, podcasts. But in regards to doing news, no, I know it's not, unless you were going live, but.
Yeah, we've talked about going live as an idea. It's not something we're currently entertaining. There's just too many unpredictabilities, let alone the complexity of like booking content. Because like Echo as an operation really is just Ben and I, you know, and like we kind of just do what we can, and we do hopefully a great job. Speaking of just,
and you
doing
have a lot of
things.
different avenues to go down. You don't just interview old news people. You interview arts people. You interview lots of different people. So I mean, you guys have to be pretty well versed on who's coming in, because you don't want to sound like a dummy when you're interviewing somebody.
Oh.
But you always learn stuff. I mean, you talked about, one of the things you had talked about before I came in here was the how Canada wins. And these aren't really specifically national stories, but I learned a lot you learn about people. You learn about what they do. I barely knew who Tracy Clement was.
Yeah.
She's the wonderful lady that works, and she doesn't call them homeless. She calls them unhoused.
I was going to say it was the unhoused story, right?
Yes.
Okay.
And I got to know her. I didn't know, and I lived here, like I said, the first time I set foot in North Bay was 1966. And I didn't know that the Cenotaph is the tallest cenotaph in the country beyond Ottawa. Somebody told me that about a week and a half ago. I said, that's a great story. And I've been to that cenotaph, I don't know,
100 times.
200 times, 100 to 200, either as a kid for Remembrance Day, or as an adult for Remembrance Day, or as a news person. And it's not just Remembrance Day. They also do Battle of Britain there. They have other events there as well. So, I mean, but to hear that and find out that it's the number one beyond Ottawa, but that's a national memorial, which ironically was built in 1939 for the war to end all wars. Well, it didn't quite work out.
Didn't quite work out,
especially in 1939. But it was fascinating.
Yeah.
And when I happened to be there, this woman
Yes.
who just happened to be in town visiting had seen the Cenotaph in North Bay like years and years and years ago. And she was probably, she's older than me, so she's probably in her late 60s, early 70s. And she had brought her daughter and her grandchildren just because she wanted them to see the Cenotaph and the wall behind it with the names.
Yeah, Sharon Musso?
Yeah, Musso, I think it is. Yeah.
You mentioned that in your story.
It was totally random. I was there interviewing John Hetherington, who's a local historian who goes overseas to do battlefield tours for almost 30 years
in
now.
Europe, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
First World War and Second World War battlefields, trenches, Normandy, on and on and on. So he was one expert that I talked to about the importance of Cenotaph. And I had another gentleman there named Bernie Sari, who has been in the Legion for 43 years. But then she she was a Legion person herself down in Dresden, Ontario, which is somewhere way down around Chatham, I think. And but she said she gets shook up when she first saw it. She got choked up like 30 some years ago when she came up here for a darts tournament of all things.
Oh, really?
And I learned about her passion for this and the fact that she wanted her like 15 and 12-year-old grandsons to see this and to see what it meant, and the names on the wall too. I mean, to see those names. I mean, they could be today's names. But they happen to be, 100 years ago or 80 years ago, depending on which war you're talking about.
So if I can, I do want to talk a bit about this because I feel like we can talk forever, Greg, and that's really fun. I like to do this. There's a couple things I want to talk about. Obviously, the How Canada Wins series is a new thing you have going on right now related to like a Village Media.
Yeah, well, that's the other guys. We're Post Media.
Post Media, excuse me.
And
Post Media.
And it's just something they wanted to do to promote unique things or things in your community that maybe other communities don't have. Now, there's 6,000, according to that story that John told me, 6,000 cenotaphs in the country. But when yours is the tallest, that's kind of a unique. And not that you're going to come to North Bay and see our cenotaph.
Yeah.
But if you have any sense of history, or you have somebody who was in the military of any branch, that might be a place you might want to go to.
Well, it's interesting because I want to tie two things into this because it is maybe not so much like a tourism landmark, but it is a geographical landmark.
Yeah.
And I'm going to explain why. And from my perspective, is because obviously Canada has a very unique and deep history in relation to foreign relations, especially with wars, Great War, World War II. But when I used to work in recruitment, I used to travel for a living, and obviously I had a lot of different, here's and there's, everywhere else's. If I ever to go into like a community center, or I would go into a high school and someone would know North Bay, if it was at Shaney Falls, it was North Bay, like downtown, which often include the Cenotaph, or it was the airbase, right, which is kind of also interrelated. And so they talk about this. And my other point is, my grandfather actually is on the stones behind the wall. Because he fought in World War II. He was part of the, he died here, but he came over part of the post-war.
What branch was he in? Was he Army or Air Force?
Technically, he was he served, I'm going to get this wrong probably. He served as the, I think he was like a tank driver for the English military, for the Polish tank regiment.
That would have been Army, yeah.
Yeah, so he moved
here
afterwards.
Could he speak Polish?
Can I?
No, could he?
He came right from like a region just, I think, south of Gdansk.
Yeah.
So he was from there. And he came over here, and that's kind of how my family came to be.
Well, he wanted to, yes. And you see how personal it would have been for him to go back to Europe. And even though the Russians fought, I know I'm going off here, the Russians were in Poland, but nevertheless, you want to defeat the Germans on both the Western and Eastern front. So for the Poles, it was a big deal to get into the war because most of them sadly were captured and had to stay in Poland or became slave laborers and things like that. So did your grandfather ever talk about that kind of stuff?
He talked, he died when I was pretty young. Yeah. I probably would have been around 8 or so.
I know I'm asking the question. It's supposed to be your show.
This is not an interview.
I'm fascinated.
Go for it.
I'm fascinated by this because as a kid, I never understood why war veterans didn't want to talk about their heroism or what they went through. And then as I got older and talked to these guys as a professional, I can understand 100% why they didn't want to talk about it.
Pretty traumatic stuff.
I mean, there's this great documentary by Ken Burns who does great documentaries constantly. And I happened to see Ken Burns at an event in Atlanta. It was total fluke. But it was a series called The War. And he talked about how, and I didn't appreciate it till then, and I was in my 40s, how guys had average jobs, salesmen, accountants, car salesmen,
mechanics.
Farmers, mechanics, and then they have to learn how to kill somebody. Yeah. And then they go to war, and they come back from war, and they resume their old jobs. But how do you get that out of your head that with bombs blowing up around you and people getting blown to bits right beside you, or you have to kill somebody to stay alive. It's me or them, and go I can't say that word, but
compartmentalize it.
Thank you. I can never say that word. And forget about, now I understand why the guys didn't want to talk about it, and the women who may have been close to battle as well.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting for stuff like this because you see that Sharon in the story, and I recommend anyone go read the stories, go read the bits. Greg, your pieces are awesome. Big fan. But it shows Sharon with, I believe, her grandsons.
2 grandsons, yeah.
And like they don't look like they're any older than 20, 25.
They're not even adult. They were teenagers.
And
one was a teen, 15 and 12 or 16 and 12.
And do the math on this one, Greg. Yeah. Like, I mean, not saying we're old heads, but like they were born after 2000.
I know.
That's a whole different era of understanding. And so it's important for stories like this, for the younger readers, for the passerby, the travelers of the city, to kind of understand part of our history and part of what happens throughout all of history.
It's very relatable, though. I mean, anybody comes to town, they know what a cenotaph is, you would think.
Yeah.
And although I was trying to tell my 15-year-old daughter that, this is an important place.
Yeah.
But it was a calling for her, and her daughter was with her. Her daughter was probably 40-something. Mm-hmm. And she was like, they were very, very keen and intense on making sure the boys understood that this was a sacred place, really. We're celebrating those who, as Bernie Seri said it to me, we wouldn't be here without, or we speak in different language without some of the efforts of these people.
Some of us might not be here at all.
That's true. And that's the whole point. So I guess, and she was very passionate about it. Miss Musso, when I met her that day, and that was a total fluke, because people just sometimes randomly go up there to check the place out.
It was funny. I think you had a wrote here, as fate would have it, that she just happened to show up. It was
fate. I mean, I was interviewing these 2 other people, and I see this woman. I just came up to her and said, and sometimes news stories are like that.
Yeah.
I just said, hey, can I ask you why you're here, who you are, and where you're from? And she was sometimes people say, no, I don't want to talk. She was very open and was happy to talk about it, and talked about, again, came up for a darts tournament at the old Legion when the Legion was prosperous on First Avenue, and wanted to see what the Cenotaph looked like, and it hit her hard.
Yeah,
because the scope, and I mean, and all the names on the wall and stuff. Her father was a pilot in World War II.
There you go.
So I mean, what a huge event for her, because that would probably bring back all memories when she was growing up. And her father, I don't know I didn't really go that far into what her father told her about what he did. He just said he was in the Air Force.
So before we pivot off this, how long is the series? How many more pieces you got in this?
There's 2 more to come, and then they take a break. I think Jen is going to do the other 2. Jennifer Hamilton McCharles is going to do the other 2. But there's 5, and then in the wintertime, we'll have to do 5 more.
Okay.
And it depends it's at the behest of what Post Media wants us to do in regards to the direction, how Canada wins. Like the ones I did back in the wintertime, one was about different companies that could survive tariffs, companies, and the mining industry, how would that be hit, and things like that, and what's unique about North Bay's mining industry, because we don't have any mines here, obviously, but we've got all kinds of mining manufacturing companies.
Headquarters, yeah.
J.S. Redpath, who sadly the boss just passed away on the weekend. He had Jim Redpath had died at 88.
88, yeah.
But and he had moved out back to, I think he's originally from Newfoundland, and that's where
did he die in St. John's? Did I have this right?
Yeah. And but I mean, that's one example. I mean, I remember people talking about Redpath 40 years ago, 45 years ago. I mean, that's how long it was, or longer. But anyway, so that was a story that I did on that, and did some research and talked to the usual suspects to get their take on. But the stories I love doing the most are the random ones.
Yeah.
When you go to an event, and I mean, you don't go to an event now to cover something like, say that it's going to be I don't know, say it's the cancer walk. You can, like, the last paragraph will mention how much money was raised. You want to do a story on how it's affected person piece, one person, or 2 people, or what's you go there and you say, who's a remarkable story, or maybe even before you go, you talk to one of the organizers, who should I ask about their journey, and sometimes it's just the most random ways to find out, and those stories and the people that don't want to talk are the ones you get the best stuff out of. The people who want to talk, but seriously, the people the people who don't want to talk usually give me the best answers, whether it be sports, news, entertainment, whatever.
Well, it's raw.
It is, and it's It's what's that word I'm looking for? Oh God.
Authentic?
Yeah, authentic would be a good word.
Genuine?
Yeah, it's from their soul.
Unscripted.
Unscripted. They're not reading from a prepared script. They're not reading a press release. They're giving it to you from their heart. Organic is the word I was looking for. I couldn't think of the word.
We got there.
But that's what it is.
Yeah.
And that. So I mean, even in my old age, that kind of stuff is fun. Going to ribbon cuttings, not so much fun. But going to talk to people, an average, men and women who are telling their stories, and there's so many more. You could do 5 stories a day and not be caught up.
It's true.
Because there's so many stories out there in the world now, and there always were, but people didn't know about them.
Yeah.
So you meet a lot of wonderful people in this job, and I mean, I think that's why the pay isn't that great, but I think the love of the work is great.
Yeah,
it's fine where I am now, but
nice.
You know what I'm saying, though? I
do.
mean, there's a love in the industry that of the industry. I mean, I ran into Clark Heupel, who I used to work with for 8 years at Cogeco. No, 10 years. Sorry, at Cogeco, 10 or 11. And, he was out covering something and he's on holidays. And he knows he's on holidays, but he goes, I really wanted to go to this story. It's almost like a drug. You want to, you feel bad sometimes if you're going to miss something.
Sounds like someone else I know.
And you want to go and check it out and you want to see how it's going to turn out.
Yeah.
Like Clark today was and this is a great story too about this old picture they had of a nurse from World War I, and they did a fantastic. They didn't know who
I saw this.
We didn't know. They didn't. Sorry, not we.
Something about this. I saw a photo.
It was they had a formal presentation from the Legion.
Yeah.
To the Calendar Bay Museum, and
yes.
Clark was there covering it on his own time because it was a story that was interesting to him. And it is a very interesting story. And they finally, through some research, they found out who the woman was, who she was married to, and, her whole background and stuff.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry, my phone beeped a couple of times. People are actually texting me news tips. I'm not lying. It's actually news tips.
I'm taking them away from the beat. This is precious.
Yeah.
But I think the last time we worked on a piece talking about boring news releases, I think the last time we worked on a beat was, I want to say it was, maybe spring of 2023?
Yeah.
2024? I think we worked on an OEAP, a youth apprenticeship, and I think this is specifically about women in trades. Where we
I do remember that story. Yes, I definitely remember that
and you're
story.
like, Chris, I need an interview with a kid. We'll get Kevin Houghton in. Shout out to Kev.
Yeah.
We did a little piece, and all the school boards were there. I was like, but I want to get NPSC to get the interview. And there's a lot of things happening, but it was great.
You want to get, you don't want to just regurgitate the press release. You want to talk to somebody.
You did it.
And you want to find some, that's why, most reporters are very capable of looking for that story beyond the story. Why are you interested as a 16-year-old girl in using, some piece of equipment that, that's because there's tons of women in the trades now. This is not even a story anymore, really.
Sure, yeah.
20 years ago, it might have been a story. I remember I did this feature on this young lady who works full-time as a mechanic at Honda. And actually, she's got a whole bunch of upgrades since I interviewed her. But at the time, it just seemed a little, different. She was into a lot of different things, heavy metal, and she was also into knitting and curling and all this different stuff. Quite a Renaissance person. But it was but now I think that was 7 or 8 years ago, I think I first met her. But, that story in itself is not as big as it was because tons of women are in the trades and the trades need them.
Dear North Bay, as a single mom and full-time student, life can feel overwhelming and budgets are always tight. But one thing I never question is how deeply I care about my community. When I began volunteering at the North Bay Regional Health Centre, I saw firsthand how much the healthcare system means to people, especially when life takes an unexpected turn. It made me think, what if it was my child, my parent, or my friend that was in need of care? That's when I realized I wanted to do more, to be part of something bigger than myself. I joined the I Give monthly club because even a small monthly gift can have a meaningful impact, helping ensure everyone in our community has access to the care they need right here at home. If you believe in strong, local health care, I hope you'll join me. Sign up at nbrhcfoundation.ca or call 705-495-8125. It's simple and it matters. With gratitude, Kim Cosgrove.
It's almost that time of year. Early mornings at the rink, fresh notebooks and backpacks, and a community gearing up for another great season of varsity sports. At Source for Sports North Bay, we're proud to be part of it all. Whether it's finding your kid's first pair of skates, gearing up for tryouts, or outfitting your team for the season ahead, we've got you covered. Because here, we're not just a sports store, we're neighbors, coaches, teammates, and fans. And we're proud to cheer you on every shift, step, and stride of the way. Visit Source for Sports North Bay at 1321 Fisher Street and let us help you along your way.
Like much like the way in which we tell and share news and good stories, the news that we do share also changes. Right? You talk about how, taking phone calls, what a fax machine is 20 years ago. The story and the content of the actual story has changed. That, when we talked about that little piece, was as interesting as it was. It's not really groundbreaking. It's just enlightening.
It is enlightening. Well, and the other thing is that, as you mentioned early in this show, that how sometimes, especially politicians, they don't release a lot unless it's really beneficial. And if it's negative, they don't return your phone calls.
Yep.
They don't return your emails, which I think is still not great. I was going to say something worse, but I'll just say it's not great because they work for the public.
Yeah.
But and press release, what the media or the information that gets released is much more controlled now than it was, say, 35 or 40 years ago. The message is much more controlled. They don't let out a whole lot.
Yeah.
And if it's negative, you don't hear anything.
Silence.
Silence, yes. And that also applies to sports.
It's a fair point.
If a player gets suspended or gets sent home or whatever, it's very brief and, very, very, I don't know. I'm trying to use
you get the
right
classic
adjective.
Non-statement.
Non-statement. Yeah. So-and-so's gone home or so-and-so has been cut from the team, and that's all you're going to get. Why? That's all you're going to get.
That's all you're going to get, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we do talk about something before we kind of get to maybe some of the local stuff, because we talked about that a little bit. You share, we both share a passion for sports. Obviously, you love covering sports.
That's why I wanted to get into business.
That's how you want to get into it, right?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
So what's I'm not saying you like one more side or the other, but what's so different about covering sports and news that gives you a unique push or flair? Like what's so fascinating about local sports or sports in general that kind of makes...
Because it's not scripted, usually. You know what I mean?
Usually, hopefully.
Well, the NFL officiating, we won't get into that.
A Vikings fan?
Yes, well, not just that. I'm talking about the officials.
True.
No, the Viking script is just one of pain.
It's true.
One of building your hopes up, then crushing them the most obscene way possible.
Wide left?
You had to bring that up. You weren't even born. Actually, you were born. You were like 10.
It's a pain point. I'm sorry, Craig.
It is. Well, there's a couple of them. Brett Favre's interception in 2009 was another beauty.
NFC Championship game, crossbody.
Oh, anyway. But the thing you go to a game, you never know what's going to happen. Is some guy going to score 4 goals and walk through the team? Is some guy going to, if a goalie's going to let in a shot from center ice? And not just hockey. Football, any sport. Some of my more exciting moments covering stuff is, stuff that happened on the gridiron, so to speak, or at a basketball game or a hockey arena. It's never, you never know what's going to happen. So that's the attraction to sports as well, especially local sports, because they're not playing for money. Well, I guess the OHL guys are trying to
play for the opportunity for money.
Opportunity for money, but they're doing it for the love of the game, which I know sounds like a horrible cliche, but it's true. High school, and a lot of kids that are in high school sports know that this is high as they're going to get. Yep. They're not going to go pro. They're not going to even get a chance to play university football or hockey or basketball. So this is their gold standard, so to speak, in sports. So they sometimes try harder than anybody, because they know, even OHL players, I know guys that know that they're not going to, even though there are more opportunities now than before, a lot of those guys, they know when they're done junior, that might be it.
That'd be it.
Maybe university, maybe, but maybe not, So anyway, but it's the unscripted part that I like.
And I like something too about local sports, and, show it to our guys in the Echo Sports cast. They do an awesome job covering local sports. I remember when I was... we're going to go back with Chris here for a minute. When I used to play football in high school, and I was not a great player. I liked playing. I had a lot of shoulder issues. Didn't make for a great linebacker. But I remember the nights in which everyone was watching, and whether that was amplified by the local media or by the fact that it was an intense rivalry. Like, I went to St. Joe's Secondaries or St. Joe's Scholar Hall.
That's
when
too
we
bad.
played. Was that?
That's too bad, man.
Well, historically we've done well.
Who was your coach?
At the time it would have been John Whittet.
The great John Whittet.
Yeah,
my
Johnny.
buddy,
Yeah.
yes.
He's enjoying his retirement somewhere.
Yeah, he is. He's still doing a little bit of. He's another
course.
football hole that I mean. He won the one last.
Oh, really?
You know, I'm in too many. But yes,
I remember there was a game where we played West Ferris under the lights. And it was like the first time I think Scholar maybe got lights.
Yeah.
Or like new lights.
Yeah.
And like we had this lock-in thing, and it felt like this like really momentous occasion. And then Ferris like mopped
Did you
the floor
play?
with
Did you
us.
play with DeGilio?
Justin?
Yes.
He was 2 years older than me.
Okay,
I would have
'cause
played.
he was a
I would have
not-
played with Graham Loyce. I would have
Yep,
played with
I know Graham very well. Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, Graham's a beaut. I would have played with. Oh, I'm forgetting so many different names now, but I was not any of those names. I was a guy
Yeah.
on the roster, but it was fun. But I remember those. I will remember those forever.
You know what? I didn't play any high school sports. The only sport I played growing up really was baseball and softball.
Okay.
And that was about it. I was too chicken to play high school sports. I could report on it. But you think about the football, getting back to that now, I mean, now Kandari Field is beautiful.
Yeah.
State of the art.
Yeah,
you know?
it's equipped now.
And, you know, the Omichelle Michael Shea Field is beautiful as well.
Sure.
But even back in the day when they had the crappy fields, they'd still get 1,000 people out to watch a high school football game
Yeah.
in North Bay, and they still do,
Yeah.
even though it's only 3 senior teams. But that's another. Well, I was for Chippewa might be coming back in a couple of years.
Rumor has it they are.
Yeah, but just think of the fan buzz around town. You're playing Ferris. There's 1,000 people or more
Yeah.
at that game.
It was more than something to do. It was something to experience.
It was an it was a town event.
Yeah. And you know what's crazy about that too, Greg, is that like I don't remember, mostly because they weren't around yet. No one was recording these on phones. There was no phones out. There's no images on social media of me not playing football. There was just memories of me playing football.
Well, people would take pictures, and we'd try to tape games.
The journalists in the
and
coverage
we
would.
and we also, obviously try to do games on cable and stuff like that.
But that's what I'm
too.
saying, is that it was experienced at like the most
But it's
like
not
pure.
like
it's
not like now where everybody I mean, teams tape all their own games, parents tape all their
And they do fantastic work.
Yeah,
There's some
they
crazy
do.
stuff they do out there.
And I mean, the fields now are like so good for the athletes. I mean, playing it. I mean, like I said it. I just said it, but I mean, playing at Omichelle and playing at field turf over at Schollard,
Yeah.
is like for the athletes. I'm sure it's much, much better. I mean, I've told so many stories of athletes telling me, football players especially, stepping into holes, stepping into grounds all like it's not level, and they're trying to run for a touchdown, and they're going up and down hills, and they're tripping and falling, and nobody's touching them. Why? Because the fields were so bad.
I'm going to share another story with you related to football, related to fields, before we get to some local beats. It's almost like you picked something out of my memory, because there's an embarrassing story that I will share with our listeners. I will not mention the field, but it was a natural field, not level, not turf, where it was in warm-ups. I was doing it was like the track, the drill, and we had to do a burpee to go down.
Yeah.
For anyone who's wondering, it's like the coach will have the ball point back and forth, down, up, whatever, and you have to do the thing as the player. I hit the ground.
Burpees must be fun wearing all that equipment.
It's not, especially when you can't get back up. So what happened was I hit the ground. The ground was uneven, slipped, and it would not go back in. So it was pregame warm-ups,
and that's
Greg.
not embarrassing. That's an occupational hazard, is what it is.
It is, and I'm not trying to deter anyone from playing football. That's not the point of the
It's
story.
better now. It's better for them now.
Yeah, but when it won't go back in your shoulder, your arm being your shoulder,
You can't play football.
they had to cut me out.
Really? Yeah.
They
But
had to get
again,
the emergency, the ambulance to come on the field.
it's like the
pregame.
goalie getting a puck in the head and warm up and having to leave the game. But again, the fields were not. I mean, it's not just a North Bay thing. I'm not picking on North Bay.
Yeah.
All high schools, had to deal with that issue. And I've talked to so many players, and you don't really see it till you go out in the field and take a look around. It's like, oh my God.
Especially after like a rainstorm.
Oh, that's another thing too. The field gets washed away, and I mean, Rolly Fisher was pretty good.
Yeah, Roy Fisher was okay.
Back in the day.
Yeah.
Ferris's field, when it was grass, was pretty good. Woodfields, Chippewas, no. Schollards was okay, but you guys didn't actually play at the school at that time. Didn't you play?
When I was in high school in the mid 2000s, we played.
Did you play at Scholar? Yeah, I'm trying to
absolutely.
remember. Yeah,
we played Kateri. It
Well,
was
that's right, but it was a grass field.
It was
though.
definitely grass.
Yeah.
for
Okay.
sure.
What I'm saying? Oh, yeah. In the '90s, they played there too. What am I? I'm trying to go way back. Yeah, that's true.
Not quite that old,
Way,
Greg.
way, way back. Like Algonquin didn't have a field. They do now.
They do. Yeah.
But Anyway, yeah, I feel for you in the warm up. You didn't even get to play.
It was a tough couple of years in high school for that reason alone, where I was like, oh, what was your stat line that game? A broken shoulder is what I basically had.
And I mean, did you knock you out for the year?
I came back.
Yeah.
I believe my comeback was that West Ferris Friday night game, which we didn't end up. I think we lost in the semis. I think it was a Ferris Woodfield championship. Like it was a lot back in the day.
Because that would have been what, like 2005 maybe, or
2008.
Okay.
You nailed it. Yeah.
I remember that final.
Yeah. I was not a part of it.
No, I do remember that one though.
Yeah, I think Woodfield won.
They did. There was a huge controversy with Woodfield, or Ferris thought they had one more play. Usually they do get one more play when the whistle blew at the end.
Oh, you just know Larry was.
Oh, Larry kicked over a whole bunch of coolers and stuff after the game. Ran on the field, fell to his knees, and even Kenny Pagan was writing for the Nugget at that point. Even he said it was hinky, and I was doing the game, and I said they should have got one more play. Not that they were going to win. But it's funny you bring that up because I have a lot of memories of different finals.
Yeah.
Because I mean, I've seen some. I mean, there was 2 years back when John was coaching that the Bears didn't lose a game back-to-back years. Just after you left high school.
I was gonna say, I think there was a period where they won almost all of them before me.
Yeah, back in the 80s, they won a lot.
Oh yeah. But there's a period after me where they were like just dominant.
They won 2 years in a row, and I don't think they lost a game. But but the sad part is now that the schools, there are less high schools now. Woodfield's gone. My son happened to play in the finals for Ferris, and they actually won in 2019, but that was the last year. Woodfield almost beat them. Both games were good, like under a touchdown. But again, I miss Woodfield. I went to Woodfield, so I miss Woodfield. But it's just not good for the community when you only have 3 high schools.
It's true.
Playing senior sports. It's,
And I think it's coming back. I mean, the nice part about North Bay as an area, even though it's a small city, that it does kind of loop in the others. I know, Northern or Nipissing, I'm going to butcher the French on this one, like Oué or West, they're contributing, and Franco, and then there's Manawa.
But it'd be nice that, like back in the day, too, Northern had a senior team back, but this is 25 years ago.
I remember those games. Those games were brutal.
Yeah, and especially if you're playing out there.
Yeah.
And Franco Cité was a powerhouse in junior football.
Sure.
And sporadically, they had a senior team.
Yeah.
But again, those schools have shrunk in size too, and they play some sports. But I think Franco actually came back last year. Chippewa and Franco came back last year, which was great to see. Chippewa knew it was going to be a tough year because they hadn't played football for years. And they did manage to win one game against Franco, I believe. But
you got to start somewhere.
But the thing is, it's hard to start a program from zero.
Yeah.
This year, I'm sure they'll be a little bit better. And I hear rumors they're going to try a senior team, but that might take a little bit longer.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah,
right?
Fingers crossed. Because, 4 would be fine. I think 4 senior high school football teams would be fine. And senior basketball team. And even hockey. West Ferris couldn't get a hockey team together for high school.
Really?
Yeah. And they just couldn't get the numbers.
I do know, not to be a homer for my alma mater. I do
but
know
you will be. Go ahead.
I'm going to be. Yeah. I don't owe them anything, but I'm going to do this. I do know that Schollard's SJSH's high school program is fantastic.
Yep.
They have a really, really good program for hockey there.
Yep.
And that's I'm incorporating their hockey skills academy, which is very unique.
Yep.
They have a really solid foundation for hockey there.
I think when I was this is going back to 1980, but when North Bay was, the high school was the baby boom and everything else, right? We had 2 rules at Woodfield: cheer for Woodfield and whoever was playing Schollard, because Schollard was a powerhouse, right? And the elusive Triple Crown. A few schools have done it, but it doesn't have the meaning now that it did back in the day when there was 6 schools in every sport, right?
I remember when the Anthonys did it when I was in high school. That was the last big one. I think.
They were terrific athletes too, both of them.
Truly were. Yeah.
But I'm just glad that there's still some sports here.
Yep.
And I think some of the other programs that are away from the high school program, they used to have Spartan basketball, which is really, really good. Now they have.
They still have Spartan basketball.
Yeah, they do. Do they?
Yeah. We just interviewed. Speaking of sports, this is a lot of sports content. Shout out to the sports guys and this Echo Sportscast. They had Mike come in for an interview.
Okay.
Mike DePel, who was the coach of the.
He used to play for Ferris back in the day too. Yes.
He was funny because he was both. He was. I went to high school with Mike.
Okay, maybe it was his brother.
There
was another DePel I know that started at West Ferris in sports.
They can ball. They can ball.
Yeah, and the Spartan program, then maybe that's on me for not remembering it, because when it was run by Larry and other people, Larry Tugas we're talking about, of course, and other people too, it was a great program and great elite program where they could develop guys and girls playing the best of the best.
It was rep.
You
It
know,
still is rep.
You know, and North Bay's always been a great volleyball town. So that's going back to John Jeffries and others.
Yep.
You know who. So North Bay, and they've had a lot of good programs too, of the rep variety. But again, sometimes they splinter off into different ones. There's not. My eldest daughter played played rep soccer, but again, there was another rep team at the same age group, which filters up, which, you know, you can't do that in North Bay and expect to beat London, Ottawa, Toronto, Hamilton.
You're splitting the players.
Yeah, and you don't have enough depth to do that.
True.
You know, I don't know where we're going all over the place, but
It's okay.
I just wanted to talk about some of that. I mean, North Bay is still a great sports town.
Yeah.
You know, it still is. It's unfortunate the populations of the high school, but I mean, it's probably happened in other cities too, that, you know, populations have forced closures because of an aging population.
Mm-hmm.
But I happened to be lucky enough to be able to cover it when it was at its peak.
Yeah.
And it was a lot of fun going to, I mean, I used to go to high school hockey games. There'd be 2,000 people at the Garden sometimes. We're going back 30 some years.
Oh, yeah.
But, you know, I mean, I remember when I'm going way back, when I was still in high school, Schollard played West Ferris in the finals. There was 3,000 people at a high school hockey game in North Bay in the finals. You know?
Oh, yeah.
So I mean, those things did happen, and the fans would come out. And football's the one sport that
constant.
still gets good crowds. Basketball's kind of all over the place. Back in the day, 20 years ago, I
would miss a Ferris Whitfield game, and I went to Scholar Hall.
Yeah.
I'm going to those games, you know. But let's talk about having fun in the city. We're going away from sports. Let's talk about what's going on locally.
Sports are fun.
Sports are fun. And you're welcome to talk about as much as you can with this, because I know you and Jennifer both kind of split the beat. We talked about on our episode last week with Dave and Scott about like the heat of a local journalist and covering news stories that are like, you know, weighty or like very much of the public interest. What's happening right now at City Hall? Can you kind of shed any light on like the process of covering that?
I'm going to shed a little bit of light on it. It's probably more for another episode.
Fair enough.
I mean, again, it's hard to get information. Everybody's been real close-lipped about it. I mean, this is a unique set of circumstances. It's getting a provincial and national blitz, if you want to say that.
Yep.
We're trying to cover it as best we can, and I think we should cover it. I think it's our responsibility to cover it and cover it as, you know, thoroughly as we can. I mean, a lot of this is done, actually, it's funny, a lot of the information is done by just people out in the community putting out FOIs, freedom of information, and they've been, you know, posting it and calling the media or sending it to the media themselves and saying, you know, here's this, this, and this. Take a look at this, and some of it is actually quite informative. It's just a sad situation at all, you know, that's still going on, and I hope there's going to be a resolution soon, but I don't know.
I mean, I think there's a lot. For me, I'm really fascinated about not so much the people's really interesting, but I'm fascinated with the process, like how we got here.
Yeah.
You know, like I say we, the city of North Bay, and the players that are there, like what could have been, you know, gated or put into place where this would have happened in the first place. And for those who are listening, just to be very clear, we're talking a bit about the expense story happening at City Hall in relation to the mayor's expenses in the last 2 years.
Yeah.
So,
and well, I mean, somebody leaked something to one of the counselors in the community. We don't know who, and they're not saying who.
Right.
And that's where it started to germinate, and then it kind of exploded from there. You know, once more and more information came out, and you know, there's still no resolution on it. So I want to tread carefully here until we get a little bit further into it.
Of course.
But I mean, I think it's an important story that needs to be covered.
Yeah.
You know.
And it's I like the way you put it, because like, I mean, we talked about in our preamble here when we were mixing and
it's
not
a small
recording.
town. Everybody knows everybody too. That's the other thing. This isn't Toronto.
No.
That where, you know, you don't know who the mayor is or the councilors are. You know them all. You see them all the time.
Yeah.
So you know them all, and some you've been friendly with for a long time. So it makes it different.
And so for me, I love asking journalists about this, even though I know you are, you know, I don't want to say limited, but tempered in what you can talk about in terms of what you're being told in the first place. Because we like to think at Echo here, we're not going to be newsbreakers, but we want to provide context and depth to a story once we have information and context about it. And it's tough because, like, it's definitely, I mean, I'm going to predict this right off the top. Like, it's going to be the news story of the year for our city. Yeah. It's without a doubt. Like, it's going to be the thing when everyone's at the end of, like, what happened in 2025 in North Bay?
Well, when they talk about it on TSN Overdrive, you know that you've got a story there.
So we did, I saw that clip. That was, I couldn't believe it.
And it's not even a news show. That's the thing that cracks out the most. It's a sports show, and they're talking about it.
So did you submit that question? Did you submit that overdrive?
No. Somebody sent it to me. They said, you've got to check this out. And I was like, oh, boy.
Yeah, it's making more than just our own like media circuit here locally. It's I don't say it's cracking out. It's breaking out into other areas because it is just generally very interesting. Not because it's like I would say, and I won't put barometers on how much money is a lot of money. Like in the grand scheme of things, there's bigger numbers, bigger deals, bigger projects that are happening that are larger in financial scale, right? But this one is such a unique perspective because it's a person, it's individual involvement, it's public funds, it's the reporting and the allocation of like what's being done. There's so many different little interesting little story bits that everyone finds more interesting than the other. Yeah. And it's not just one thing. It's not a project announcement. It's not a press release. This
it's
is something
interesting.
that's
I
different.
talk about this. It's funny. Maybe it's a different set of circumstances.
Yeah.
If a federal minister or a provincial minister runs a program that loses $50 million, they might lose their portfolio, but that's the end of it, right? This though has been, obviously it's a different set of circumstances, but it's funny how, that can happen because there's all kinds of stories you read in the media about, federal stories about different overspending, yeah, and
bigger developments,
giving money
canceled
to certain
programs.
developers or certain companies, getting favorable treatment that they shouldn't have been getting, and that's like a statistic.
It's almost like you expect it.
Yeah, it's like you kind of roll your eyes back. Okay, here's another one. You just on to the next one.
Yeah.
But when it's personal and it's in your hometown, I guess it's definitely different. And the players.
Yeah, it has different spice.
Yeah, and
right?
the players.
It doesn't feel like you're watching something else. You're almost kind of like experiencing it because you're kind of in it.
Yep.
Right. So I think this story is not just so captivating because we talked a bit about we had Will Conkin from Bay Today. Will was great. We talked a bit about navigating the comment sections as a journalist.
Well, that's another thing too.
Because those are populated right now.
And there's some people in there that post ridiculous crap. If I could say, I could say a lot worse. But I mean, some of it is just some of it is well thought out, but some of it is just personal attacks and in some cases I feel politics is. I've been called some ugly things on chats before with stories I've covered.
I apologize for those, Greg. Come on.
I know. You had you had a great alias, so I didn't know it was you. But it's sad that it gets to the stupid part, and that's the part with comments. And the Bay Today, the Nugget, Facebook. I mean,
Facebook, please.
Yeah, I know. It can be a bit of a sewer out there sometimes. I mean, there can be some very intelligent comments.
It's
there
very
can
true.
be some very thought-provoking comments, but there can also be some idiot personal attacks that, that are unfortunate.
Which is why it's interesting, and we're gonna let you go soon because I know you got some stuff to cover, and I want to, we gotta get out of here ourselves. With all these different sources and pools of information happening, with stories that are evolving, often by the hour, not by the day, not by the week, by the hour. I always like to tip my hat off to local journalists who are kind of in there, who are putting their nose to the grind. And
well, we're doing our jobs, though. I mean, that's what you're paid to do, though. I mean,
it's
you can
still tough
salute
work,
us.
though.
Oh, it can be, especially when you have something that's sensitive.
Heat, yeah.
Yeah, and then because the people you're dealing with don't want to talk about it, but you kind of have to talk about it, and then it gets overcooked sometimes, and it does make it awkward. Let's just put it that way.
I think maybe
and
if
this is
it's
not just this story. There's other stories in the past too, but
it's true.
This one right now is definitely a special case.
Well, I commend your awkward calluses that you've developed. That like when you're talking about whatever elephant in the room, even though it's your job, like you guys have to do it, and that's commendable. And it's
it'd
tough.
be bad if you didn't do it. You kind of feel, I mean, I don't work necessarily for the public, but the public wants us to deliver to them, what we believe is, honest, neutral journalism. And sometimes you have to ask questions that people don't want to be asked. And if you don't ask those questions, I don't think you're doing your job. Whether it's as a hockey coach, a mayor, an MPP, an MP, whatever. Now, usually the good ones can wiggle out of those questions very easily, But, I just feel, I think we owe it to our readers. We don't technically, like the readers don't technically pay me. They do through advertising. Okay, they spend money
through
that
eyes,
way.
reach,
right?
Yeah.
But and so you do owe it to them because they're looking to you a lot. Although again, social media has changed a lot. Sometimes people go to the North Bay whatever web page that deals with crime or whatever.
The crime beats.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
and they go,
I know.
And they go there automatically.
Yeah.
And sometimes they actually post some stuff that's some pictures of that are actually usable.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of gossip out there too, and it's hard sometimes to sort through the to get to what you need when you have to sort through a bunch of crapola sometimes and innuendo and stuff like that. But this case, is very unique, and it's not nearly over.
Oh, we know. Yeah, I think we'll be paying attention to this for the next little while.
Well, yeah, now that given some of the new players that are involved, so it's going to be
of the provincial variety.
It's definitely different.
Yeah.
Well,
whenever we have you in next, Greg, I'd love to talk more about this. You're always welcome in, but it's been so great catching up and talking about sports.
I know we
stuff.
ran off a bit there. Sorry.
Oh, it's fine. I mean, that's we talked at the beginning of the show. The beauty of long form content like podcasting is that you can kind of go off script. You don't have to stick to an outline. We're going to talk as we talk.
Well, before I came in here, I was going, I know I love to yak, but I said, gee, I'm going to fill an hour. Oh, my Lord. I said, I don't know how we're going to do that.
Easy.
Just two people talking, and we filled it easily.
Easy, brother.
Have me on for a movie show. That's what I...
Thank you so much for watching and listening to Echo Essentials. My name is Chris Piekarski, and if you get a chance, like, share, subscribe, leave a comment. Let us know about anything we talked about in the show today, whether there's a certain sporting event you watched or a certain article you've read. Just let us know. We'd happy to hear from you. Thanks so much for listening or watching. We'll see you next time.